What if the Premier League was actually hosted in America? Would football collapse miserably or explode into a whole new country? And so today we are going to predict the future of football through the most high-stake evidence and explain how the beautiful game would shift and change forever. Now, despite the infinite scenarios of how England could become hazardous and unsafe to play, let's just keep it simple. Imagine if war were to break loose, or a new virus were to hit the market. But if England became hostile, would the Premier League just disappear? Imagine it's January, you're halfway through a season, and then one day, England just becomes a wasteland. Who would host the future of British football? Would it be a neighboring European nation or the land of the obese? Let's map this out. There are 20 significant Premier League clubs and each one needs to find a new home. In New Hampshire, a state inside of New England, lives Manchester, the place where United will compete, while across from them is another city called Manchester in Vermont, which is where Man City will call home. Now that New England was completed, I want to shift down the East Coast. Washington DC is the capital of the United States, and so I picked West Ham to be the Premier League capital club of the nation. The Hammers of London become the Hammers of DC. And then I found a place in Pennsylvania named Liverpool, which I thought was pretty cool, and so I dropped Anfield in the middle of an average forest. Their biggest rivals, Everton, had to be next to Liverpool, and so I figured to put the Toffees just south of Chicago. However, for Arsenal and Tottenham, I had to put their competitive relationship in Texas. Just like Houston, Dallas, and Austin, there are many other rivalries that already exist in other sports. And so instead of a North London derby, why not add a little spice and make this derby start in Texas? I put Newcastle in Seattle because they live in the north side of England, while for Chelsea I thought Las Vegas was the best fit. Wolves and Brighton share California, Aston Villa took over Arizona, and as far as the rest of the other clubs, they got randomly placed based on my own beliefs. Now that we defined where each club will be traveling, it's time to understand how the culture of American sports would change. This is a list of the top 5 most popular sports in America, and it's clear that football isn't at its peak, which makes the new American Premier League a very interesting debate. Now first, before we talk about viewers and eyeballs on TV, let's talk about ticket sales. This is the average number of people that attend each individual sport. Despite stadium sizes being vastly different and how each league is structured, these numbers help explain several points. If you look at baseball, most games the stadium is never full. Same you could say for an MLS game depending on the match. But what if I were to show you the price per ticket for each sport? Would that change your mind? Now this may not look glamorous for all the soccer wizards, but let's do some math. If we took the average attendance of a typical game day and multiplied it by the average price per ticket, we would get this as a result per game day. But in business we forgot about the most crucial factor: supply and demand. That changes everything. How many times does a team play in a season? Now let's exclude the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, the MLS Cup, the Stanley Cup, and the World Series, which is stupid why we still call it the World Series considering it's just a national championship of freaking baseball, ladies and gentlemen. Without the postseason in action, we find this: a shocking table of how much money each sport will bring during one full season. It's amazing to see how almost every team would pull over $100 million in just one season. But we are not talking about the MLS, we are talking about the Premier League. And just to compare an average ticket in England, it is about $50 US. Multiply that by about 40,000 fans per game, and we get over $2 million in a single game day. One season later, and the Premier League is still short of that $100 million mark. But why? We are talking about the Premier League, the most popular football league in the world, and we are still losing to these other sports? How? Well, the truth is that football doesn't play 70 plus games a season. And on top of that, some of these Premier League stadiums are capped due to capacity. If we were to run out of seats to sell, then we would already be at our max. But if you gave every Premier League club a stadium that could hold up to 65, 70,000 plus people, I think that would be the difference maker. If you took note of the last few times European clubs came to America, you would notice an impressive gap within the American culture. In 2023, some of the most popular clubs in Europe came to America for a preseason tour. Now, despite being the most popular clubs, they produced numbers I've never seen before. At the Arsenal vs Man United friendly, 82,000 people attended that match. And guess what the average price per ticket was? $250 for a friendly. A game that doesn't even matter. Which is nuts. Over $20 million in a single match. That's about a fifth of what other sports make in one season. We're talking about one match, ladies and gentlemen. When Chelsea played Wrexham this summer, over 50,000 people in attendance. And Wrexham ain't even a Premier League team. Another example, Real Madrid, AC Milan, 70,000 plus fans. Arsenal versus Barcelona, another 70,000 65,000 plus fans. But what's wild was what happened in Texas. Man United versus Real Madrid, 109,000 plus fans attended that match. Mind you, this is a preseason friendly that has zero meaning in reality. And let me just say, the average price per ticket for all those games was over $200. But with Major League Soccer, this is not the case. Like, why? I mean, it's still soccer, right? What makes the Premier League so special? Well, that brings up my next argument. If the Premier League, the greatest football league in the world, were to be hosted in America, the system would have to change. There would have to be a relegation and promotion system. It's that simple. In every single American sport, including the MLS, there is no punishment for finishing last place. In fact, in the NFL, you get a literal first-round draft pick out of college in the next season. Like, who made that a rule? Losing in professional sports shouldn't just cause a team to crumble down the table, but instead into another division. The rise of semi-professional sports is incredible, but if you don't give these teams a chance, they will forever be bullied out of the market. So obviously the Prem will remain on top, but where does the MLS fall after that? I would predict the MLS to become the second division. For example, the Championship is the second division in England. Now, would the MLS join the Championship and become one large second division, or should there be two second divisions in America? Like, imagine if the winner of each league at the end of the season got promoted to the Premier League. Imagine if LA Galaxy played Liverpool in some random place in Pennsylvania. That would be insane. Now, we've spoken about where they would play, how the system would be different, and if they could change the culture of American sports. But this doesn't explain what would actually happen if this were to happen. In the NFL, they've played matches in England before during their season. It worked out for them, but imagine it happened to us. In New York, they just built a brand new stadium for the Premier League. But if you want to see how I coach my football team for a week, then watch this.